a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. You know what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Tony. What's going on, brother?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing good. Doing a lot better this week.
Yeah, same here.
Been a rough last week, man.
Well, I mean, considering it felt like we haven't recorded in a while because of situations happening and stuff like that.
Life.
Which, happens. Life happens. So it's good to be back on recording and talking movies with my bud. Getting some discussions out there. So, yeah, it's good to be back after a little hiatus.
Yeah. We've definitely taken some time off from recording, but hopefully we can get back on the ball and we're rolling again.
Back on our schedule and routine.
Yeah, it's just been life just happens. Sucks.
Indeed it does. Yep. Indeed it does.
We're actually right now if it's kind of looking a little new to you, we are using Zoom now. We're trying something a little different. We were using Skype, and some things that occurred with Skype that we just opted to try something new. So
it's a little trial and error. Hopefully everything comes out right.
Yeah.
Like
so
I said, we've kind of tried it out a little bit before we recorded. So, I mean, everything looked good and stuff like that. So hopefully everything comes clear, where, our voices are coming out clear and we're not getting staticky. Or I know even with Skype, when we were using Skype, that sometimes, especially on my end, my audio would kind of get wonky. So hopefully it doesn't happen. That's another reason we're trying something different too, is because we want to kind of see if we can get clearer audio throughout the whole podcast. So hopefully this works out well and we'll just continue on using this method.
Yeah, and also I kind of wanted to hit on something with this episode as well. Kind of beforehand before we get into everything on this review and stuff, but we also talked about the stuff that's occurred with Skype, and Tony had some issues as far as like people contacting him. I don't know if that's from the podcast or if that's just some random person being an asshole. But I just wanted to go on and say that if you guys want to contact us, the main way to contact us is through social media. We will always answer any comments or anything, or address anything as well. I believe you can private message us through Facebook as well. And also, if you just want to be an anonymous email, send an email, Midnight Monster Corner Podcast at gmail.com, and we will answer your emails as well.
Absolutely.
So, but I just wanted to get that out there. If you guys feel the urge to contact us, that's the way to contact us, and we will get back with you when we can.
Yeah, totally.
All right, with that being said, Tony, what are we reviewing today, man?
Man, we are doing something new. I mean, we've kind of been reviewing a lot of retro stuff lately, so we're getting back on the swing of things with some newer films. In this particular instance, we're reviewing the newest Texas Chainsaw from 2022. And yeah, like I said, it's only, right now it's only on Netflix. So if you guys want to see it, definitely, if you have Netflix, check it out. It is on there. It's only on Netflix right now. It's not on any other streaming service. I don't think so. Yeah. So it's strictly on Netflix right now, which when I heard about this movie coming out, I was kind of hoping for a theatrical release with it. So it kind of made me a little nervous. It was going straight to Netflix. I'm like, oh, is it the mark of bad quality or whatever and stuff like that? But I guess more streaming services are trying this out, and getting more exclusive rights to certain films to come out. Just same thing happened with Halloween Kills with Peacock is the same kind of thing. Even though that was a theatrical release as well, they just exclusive rights to it while it was still out in theaters. So yeah, I guess a lot more streaming services, and as we move along to streaming services dominating like they are now, this is probably going to be more of a common thing happening. So don't let it deter anybody from the mark of quality of a film, like that the studio has because it used to be that way. A studio had no faith in the movie doing well, so they would just dump it on Netflix or something like that, and they wouldn't think twice about it. So it's just becoming more and more of a common thing, and I know it has a bad stigma. So yeah, like I said, I've been kind of not following it like 100% throughout the whole. Like, I didn't watch the trailers. I went in kind of blind on it. I'm not really big on watching trailers because a lot of trailers spoil a lot of key plot points in a movie, and I kind of hate that because you can going in oh well, this is going to happen because I saw it in the trailer. So I kind of stayed clear of all that. Kind of went in completely blind. I did hear a lot about the casting, especially with the Sally character and stuff like that. That was kind of big news that was going around. But yeah, watching because TCM, the original TCM, is one of my favorite films of all time, regardless of genre. I mean, it's just a masterpiece of filmmaking. So this particular franchise, and I mean, I was never a huge fan of the franchise in general. There's some bad ones in there, but there's some good ones in there too, man. So I mean, me being a huge fan of the original, like you are as well, Corey, like most horror fans are, of course. You kind of get excited when you hear new Chainsaw films coming out. I mean, you kind of you're more curious than not of what direction they're going to go. And in this particular instances, this particular case, they kind of went the retcon thing where they said, all those sequels never happened. This is a direct continuation of the original film, so TCM 2, 3, none of that Leatherface, none of that happened. This is directly after the original film. Kind of like the same route Halloween went.
Exactly. I wanted to pick your brain about that. Well, first and foremost, I want to say, so something that you probably don't know about me, even Tony, is the first time I ever watched a Texas movie was actually the remake.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. I never saw the original before I saw the remake. I actually saw the remake in the theaters.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I was like, wow, this movie's awesome, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, that was a remake, and I was like, what? So then I watched the remake, and I was like, fuck, that was awesome. So I was in love with the Texas films from the beginning,
Well, me, man. I'm such a huge fan of like Southern horror films. Like, I don't know, just movies that take place in the South and in general. Just I love it. Because I mean, we're Southern boys, man. We grew up in the South. I mean, we're just used to it. So just the accents, everything like that, just appeals to me, and I'm sure it does to you too. That's why I love TCM so much, man. I watch it on a regular basis just because it just southern fried goodness is what it is at the end of the day. I mean, it's a pure horror film. It's got that feel, that documentary style feel that makes it so uneasy, and it's psychological, which is at the end where they're tormenting. I mean, we're not doing a review. I can talk TCM all day, but like I said, we're talking about the new one, which I mean, to be fair, is something that I didn't think was going to happen as soon as we got it. I mean, after the kind of not the backlash of what Leatherface did, but there was a lot of turmoil with that film. No, not turmoil, but a lot of fans weren't too pleased with it, and then some fans, of course, were. It was split. Let's just say that it was a split. So to get a TCM not far after this one, or after Leatherface was the last one. So it kind of surprised me that it was coming out so soon.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was of course I was interested in checking it out. And since, have Netflix already, it's like, fuck it, let's sit down and watch it. And me and you kind of talked about it. And we're like, yeah, man, let's do a discussion on it. We haven't done a discussion on something newer and, well, consistently in a while.
Yeah.
So let's give it a shot. And that's why we're here, talk about it tonight. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say what the initial thoughts, or we can talk about the plot if you want, get into that.
Well, I just want to reiterate that we will be spoiling this. So if you haven't seen it, like I said, the only way that you can watch it is on Netflix. So somehow, some way, get your ass on Netflix, watch this film before you before you watch our review. Whether
Yes,
it be
please.
you steal your cousin's code or whatever.
However you get it. We don't want to spoil anything. This
No.
is a brand new film, and we don't want to spoil it for anybody that is interested in seeing it and hasn't seen it yet, and regularly listens to the show or checks us out on occasion.
Hmm.
We don't go out and do what the trailers do and spoil shit. So please, if you can, check it out on Netflix, and then come back and check our episode out and join in on the discussion with us and kind of, hear what little plot point or things we bring up, pros and cons, whatever have you. So.
Yep. Well, I definitely want to pick your brain, Tony. Something that I am curious about since we're just diving into it. Thoughts on this taking the same approach as Halloween?
Man, do they?
So like it's weird because within just 2 years of each other, they've taken the same turn. So what's your thoughts?
It's not something that's not surprising because as us being horror fans, we know that even when slashers were coming out in the early 80s and stuff like that, they were borrowing a lot from each other. And it happens. It happens in horror. Once something becomes like the new thing, it spawns imitators. And in this particular case, this is pretty blatant. Even bringing back a final girl character that is beloved to horror fans and stuff like that, and which is, if you want to get into spoilers and stuff now, one of my biggest negatives of this movie is what they did with the Sally character. I fucking hated it. It drove me fucking crazy. And I felt like the reason they did it was because what we were saying, they had to kind of not leech off, but like kind of go back to what Halloween did with Jamie Lee Curtis, bringing her back, her character back. But just the way they did it, the way they went about it was just really, really fucking terrible, man. I was not a fan of that at all. And I don't want to just get into the negatives right away and stuff like that. But that is the one thing that really pissed me off. Being such a big fan of the original, I hate when you kind of like just really turn a great character into a throwaway character. And that's kind of what they did. Yeah. So I don't know.
I wasn't a fan of that, and we're kind of jumping ahead, but yeah, I know what you're talking about, and you almost hope for redemption right there.
Right.
And it just didn't happen.
Well, even the choices that the character makes and stuff like that, just terribly written for her character. It's just I don't know, man. It's just, and it didn't work for me. Some people say, oh, it kind of. I've heard some people like what they did with. I just don't get it, man. I just don't. Sally is a great final girl.
Only to be killed in a sequel made years later.
Right. Yeah. And for her to hold on to this, because her character really held on to the resentment and the anger and frustration for a long time, and for her to finally get that faith, I don't know, it just felt like it didn't feel as grand as it should have felt. It just felt kind of like fly by the numbers, kind of forgettable.
It really did. And the bad thing is they made her out to be such a strong character.
Oh yeah, she was a bad
actor. The way she talked to him, the way that her mannerism on screen, everything about her just showed what kind of a person she was at the end of the original movie
Hmm.
and what she was in this movie.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
yeah,
again, and again, similarities between the two, Jamie Lee Curtis and Sally,
but
uh,
yeah,
because in the original, Laurie Strode's just this girl that she was lucky to get away,
yeah,
and then in years later, she's this badass bitch who's been waiting for the chance. Similar storyline.
oh yeah, almost beat for beat the same. Like
But
it's
it almost seems like they didn't feed off of that. Like they didn't want to really feed off that because that wasn't the main focus of the story.
right,
That was
right,
just
yeah,
kind of something that was added in to tug at in my opinion, to tug at the hardcore fans.
yeah. Like fan service, yeah. I get that, man, because you have to have a relatable character in a franchise that's
Hmm.
been around the franchise that the fans can fall back on. And
But they did that. They did that though. They wrote in two characters. They're your main characters. Your two main characters. They wrote those in to appeal to even the the fans of the genre, or not genre, but the fans of the franchise, I guess you would say, you know, because what Sally and Franklin had, was it Melody and Lila? Is that her name?
yeah,
Um, had, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
that
Because
bond.
because again, there was a sister there that didn't want to be there. Well, similarities right there. Sally and Franklin. Franklin
Franklin.
really didn't want to be there. He was being dragged along, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is it?
Totally.
Yeah. And there's a quote in the movie that really made me think about that. And there's a scene where Melody and Lila are talking, and Melody says, "I know you can't take care of yourself."
Yeah, dude,
And I was like,
good
"Wow,
stuff.
that's
Yeah,
Sally and Franklin right there."
that's really good stuff, man. I'm glad you brought that up, man.
Yeah,
That's nice. That's a good catch, man.
yeah.
Really
And I
cool.
mean, yeah. So it instantly resonated with me. Like that was kind of Sally and Franklin of this storyline.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, totally,
Um.
man. Even going back to, well, I mean, which is one thing I did like about the film is they went back to, well, let's. I'll get into that a little bit later. I don't want to bring that up right away, but so I mean, basically, so I guess we'll kind of talk about the plot a little bit. So we have a group of characters. Melanie, of course, the older sister, and her friend Dante. I think that it said that they work together,
Mhm.
um, in a restaurant or something like that. And what they essentially want to do is buy out like an old rundown town in the middle of nowhere and kind of fix it up to be a haven for like hipsters and like the younger generation, so they can kind of have like their own town and build it the way they want to with their
Mhm.
ideologies and stuff like that. So we follow our four main characters. So we got Melody. Her partner in this is Dante, they work together. Dante's girlfriend Ruth, I think her name is Ruth,
Mhm.
and then Leela, her sister. So our four main characters, they come into um, this town, and right away, when the film opens, you hear about the story about what happened in the original TCM, of course, and about Sally Hardesty and her friends, and um, Leatherface getting away, and him being just out there. No one knows where he's at. No one knows whatever happened to him. So he's out there, and like I said, it initially kind of um, interests what the Leela. I can't remember if it's Leela or Lila. I keep forgetting. Um, but yeah, so she kind of picks up on that and asks the guy at the counter, because they're in the convenience store where the report is on.
Mhm.
Which, do want to mention, it's really cool that they got John Larroquette to do the opening again. Which I found out that was really cool. Nice little touch there.
Mhm.
The original narrator to the original TCM, who I think what I heard was he was paid to do that, by the by the film by Toby Hooper and stuff with a joint. So that's all it took for him to do the narration, and how classic that is. So all it took was a joint, which I love that. But yeah, it was cool to hear him and his voice coming back to narrate the opening. So I really dug that. That was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So basically they're in town, they're checking out the town, and you know, they have a big rally that's going to happen there with a lot of investors coming in to kind of to help fund the town and get the buildings, you know, or get the businesses up and running. And they really want to show out and make it look cool and everything like that. So, but not everything is copacetic there in the town, because this happens to be the town that Leatherface is in. So when shit goes down, shit goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's basically the short and long of it, as far as the plot is concerned.
So I was kind of confused by this, you know. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was confusing to me in the beginning, because it's like, oh, Leatherface has been in this orphanage this entire time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have Sally, who escaped from Leatherface's family in the original movie, and this is supposed to be written solely based off of the original film.
Yeah.
But you got this subplot that he was in this orphanage. When did that happen?
Right. Well, yeah, it's never really, and there's never really an answer to why that happened or how he got into that position.
Right.
He just kind of is there.
So here's my thing. Okay, so you were talking about how this is pretty much basically a direct sequel off of the original movie. I think at some point in time you also have it with Leatherface, because Leatherface, that film Leatherface, is in an orphanage, and it shows him being in an orphanage. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with the plot of this film or the storyline of this film. I'm trying to figure. To this day, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, how did he get to be in that orphanage? You know,
Yeah, like I
they
said,
explained it. They explained it in Leatherface. You know, so was it? You know, is this movie kind of a direct off of Leatherface as well? Because in the end, he was going back to his family.
mhm.
You know.
Yeah, and like I said, I could see that, but then I can't see it because it's technically a direct continuation of the original, which I kind of, you kind of are like, well, what? So you think back on the original, what age Leatherface would have been in the original? Because in this film, it's like when he gets to the orphanage, he's still like very, very young. So it's like, you think about, well, I don't know how that works in the original if he's still so young, and then jump forward all these years later. Now he would be like in his late 70s.
Yeah.
In this film,
I could see that. I could see that.
you can be considering Grandpa Sawyer, and the fact that he's as old as he is, and he's still, well, he's kind of, he can't really do too much. He's decrepit and old, but he's still alive. So, you know, maybe it said something about cannibalism or something in the storyline, and you know, them being a family of cannibals, how it prolongs their life or something like that. I was thinking about that. Well, I mean, just I'm trying to grasp at something here with this, because it doesn't make any sense that Leatherface would be that old and still be able to jump around and swing the chainsaw and do everything he's doing in this film, take the damage that he takes in this film.
Yeah,
because he takes a lot of damage in this movie. Yeah. I mean, the shit's happening to him just as much as he's giving it back to other characters and stuff like that. So the fact that he's able to do all that at his age is impressive. Where he's essentially like a super villain, where he's turned into Jason. I mean, that's another thing with and I don't want to do a review on Halloween Kills and Halloween, but they're essentially making, you know, Michael and Leatherface like these Jason characters, where they're almost, you know, superhuman and not what they're originally supposed to be, which is just scary, normal, well, not normal, but just your average human. But no, they're turning into like, super villains. Like it's amazing how they're able to just based on the last couple of years with Halloween and then this coming out, what they're able to do with the characters now, where they're able to just take a brunt of damage and just keep on going.
Yeah.
So that's another thing they kind of, have similar going on. But yeah, I don't understand the timeline with the orphanage or the fact that he is the age that he is. I'm not quite sure how that's into play and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't see there's people that are older. There's older people that stay in shape and this and that are able to do this, but Leatherface isn't. He's not in shape. I mean, so to see him do all this and stuff, it's kind of hard to believe at his age.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, and that's another thing too. We were talking about the storyline and how, orphanage versus the Sawyer farm doesn't really add up. There's a scene towards the beginning where they go in and they confront the old lady. I think what's her name, Miss MC. I think that's her name.
Which is technically the legal guardian of Leatherface. Like he's
right.
And
she said he's the only one left. He never left.
Yeah. Because he needs somebody to care for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Again, where did the farm fit into this story? If he's been there, so I don't know. I'm really confused by that. I mean, I will say the storyline is pretty cool. Yeah,
I mean, it's different, taking this like this newer generation of kids and having them like essentially buy a town that's been, that's pretty much abandoned and bring it into a sustainable environment for a younger generation and stuff like that. It sounds it's of the time because that seems like it's a storyline that would have taken place in a different film. But it just so happens to be taking place in this Texas Chainsaw movie. But like I said, it doesn't all come easy to them because the reason things transpire is because they're basically trying to evict this lady out of her orphanage, which she's the last person in this town. The town was supposed to be cleared out by now. So when they confront her about why she's still there and stuff like that, it doesn't go well. And there's some words exchanged and there's like an altercation, and she's an older lady. So of course she's going to, her heart's not going to take it. And she's going to start having issues, complications. And Leatherface just so happens to be present while they're rushing her to the hospital to effectively try to save her life. But on the way there, she kind of, succumbs to her shock and stuff like that and passes away. And that's what sets off the whole chain of events with Leatherface. And it was kind of interesting that the blonde girl went with them in the hospital or to the hospital, or they were going to the hospital where she was with the cops while they were taking Miss MC there, and Leatherface just happened to be there too. But I thought it was interesting that she went with them, I guess to be a witness or something, so just in case they started pointing fingers. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how that whole situation transpired.
I will say what's really interesting to me, because I know you want to talk about this ambulance scene.
Oh God, yes. Do I?
What really is very interesting to me is, so we know Leatherface as this brutal murderer, right? From the original movie.
Well, more or less the fact that he's like he's unaware. I always felt like Leatherface is kind of unaware. He's kind of drawn to Nubbins and Drayton as far as like him being very behind and not at the mental capacity of someone's age at the time. So he's just following in their footsteps. I always think back to the original TCM when Drayton's just basically fucking with him. Like the whole time he's giving him shit and looking at him and stuff like that and swinging, and Leatherface is kind of cowering and stuff like that, because you could tell he's genuinely he genuinely gets nervous or anxious around them just because that's their relationship. So with Leatherface, I always felt like it was almost tragic in a way because it feels like he doesn't understand what he's doing. He's just doing what he's used to doing, which is protecting his family and his home and his area. That's all he knows. That's all he cares about. So he's very territorial, not really understanding, fully grasping what he is doing to these people, just because of where he's at and his mental capacity. So I never really found Leatherface to be like a brute. He was always more of a tragic character in a way because of how he was raised and how he was brought up with the family that he was brought up with.
Yeah.
So to think about him in those terms is like it's an interesting concept because they do that and they run with it in this movie because he becomes a full blown slasher villain. I
Right.
mean, he is fucking up people left and right in this movie, which when we get to it and I get to it, I'll say that the thing that this movie does brilliantly and well is they take the title and they give you what you were expecting with a title like Texas Chainsaw. They give you a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Texas. And it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So, because everyone says about the original, it's like, oh, people feel like it's more gory than it actually. People have the stigma that that's a gore fest and this is that. But when you look at the original TCM, it's not. It's very subdued.
Yeah.
And that's what works so well about it. But people have this thing. I mean, the general audience think that it's a gore fest because of the title. The title of the movie has them automatically assuming that it's just body parts flying around left and right. Well, in this movie, they're like, well, we're going to give you that.
Well,
we're not shying away from that.
I like the fact that they kind of played off like he's been calm this entire time.
Yeah.
Did you get that feel?
Oh, for sure. Like he's been in a sedated state.
Yeah, because even at one point I think if these people went into this town and didn't fuck with Miss MC at all, this town would have thrived. Nothing would have happened to these people.
Right. Well, yeah, because Leatherface wouldn't have. Yeah, I mean,
they showed that at one point. Because at one point, like even when Sally confronts Leatherface, he walks away from her. Like he's not going to kill her.
Well, there is a scene where I kind of think the opposite because when Leatherface is up in Miss MC's room, just getting back from the what all happened in the police van, he looks outside the window and he sees the bus full of kids and he flips out like he loses his shit. He breaks the mirror and this and that. So to me, it's a territorial thing with Leatherface too, because we knew when Kurt goes into his house, their house, the Sawyer house, that's when he lays into him, and then that's when the ball starts rolling, because to me, Leatherface is a territorial individual. So the fact that this bus full of kids just busted up into his town and stuff like that, and he saw that, and what transpired with him and his guardian, all that culminated in him just completely losing his shit and just going on a rampage. So to me, there is a little hint of like he's still very territorial, and that kind of set him off, because I mean, as soon as he saw that bus full of kids and the people in the square that were like partying and starting to have fun and stuff like that, he kind of like mentally he lost it, because he kind of like lashed out and stuff like that. So that made me think like, oh, it is kind of him going back to the original film, him being very territorial of what he's known for so long and what he's used to. So I don't know, man. You can look at it both ways, I think. I mean, you totally can. And that's the interesting part. There's interesting philosophical shit happening in this movie, which I'll get into when we get to that point where we're not there yet. We are jumping around everywhere. So
everywhere, yeah. I got the feel that he hadn't been killing since the original film.
Me too. And that's because that town had not faced something like that before. It's always been a town, and then it slowly started to dilapidate, and people started leaving, and it became to a point where it was him and this old lady still there, and that's all he knew was this orphanage, her, and when that was getting taken away from him, he had to lash out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of see that just watching TCM, the original TCM. He never fucks with anybody until they go into his house, and that's when they go into his house and they invade his territory. That's when he protects his. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
yeah.
Definitely. So, ambulance.
Oh God. So I mean,
This
dude,
was the trigger.
oh yeah, because as soon as she died, that was it. Like it was full on after that. That kill where he breaks the dude's arm and then stabs him in the neck with the dude's bone that is exposed from his broken arm. That shit was gnarly. I
Yeah.
loved it.
I actually put in my I put in my notes. I said, "Well, the ambulance ride escalated quickly."
Very quickly. That kill was fucking awesome, and it came out of nowhere too. I did not expect it when I watched it for the first time. I was like, "Holy shit!" I didn't see that coming. Like I didn't know they were going. That in that moment I knew. I was like, "This movie's not holding back. They're going to be gory." I know the gore's going to be coming in this movie. Like it's going to be full on. As soon as I saw that scene, I'm like, "Yep, I know what I'm in for." They're not holding back. Because there's a lot of gnarly death in this movie. Whew,
Well,
man.
I really like so pretty much you see him kind of saw off her face and then make a mask of it almost immediately. I really like that because it kind of goes down to the old storyline of Ed Gein, you know.
Yeah.
Because he dressed up as his mom. So I don't think he went as far as like wearing a face of her, but
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Back to the original, what the original TCM was based on, and that was Ed Gein, among other things, of course. But yeah, that was one of the big influences. So yeah, that's cool
so
too.
he probably looked at her as kind of like a mother figure. So that's the reason why he dressed up. He pulled her face off and put it on his.
Definitely think so too. Which I wonder how, because when he put her face on, he didn't tie it with anything. He just kind of put it on. So I was wondering how it was holding on to his head the whole time, because you never really see
super glue. Glue.
I mean,
He was sitting over there. Didn't you see him knelt down and he was doing this?
Yeah,
that would have super glue on.
Jason or getting Leatherface doing like a project.
Yeah.
But yeah, that also turned into a cool set piece where he displayed her body with the missing face in the cornfield, the sunflower field, which really cool set piece. I really gore set piece that I really dug that. I thought that was really cool. Harking back to the original with the furniture and everything in the Sawyer house. I mean, made of bones and everything like that, and their weird avant-garde human skeleton shit that they made this house. So I thought that was really cool too. Nice little look.
Yep. I dug it.
Yeah.
It was a really cool shot.
I know a lot of people were like talking shit and really hating the scene where Leatherface pops his head out of the sunflower field and everything like that. People were talking shit about. I thought it looked cool though, man. I didn't think it looked bad at all. I thought it looked really neat.
It was it's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it
Imagine
really is.
seeing that in person. You would shit yourself.
All the sunflowers and stuff in the field, like they're dying or they're dead, and he's got a dead woman's face on his face, so it kind of like fit the motif, and it looked really cool. Which harkens back, like after that scene, it turns into one of my favorite scenes where he's walking away, and you see the fields of like dead sunflowers and stuff, and the storm coming up in the sky. That's one of my favorite shots in the movie. When you see him walking away and stuff like that, I love that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
sick as hell, man. I dug the hell out of it. But man, we're all over the place, aren't we? Well, I guess can we talk a little bit about the main characters, like the main four and everything, what you were kind of thinking? I know a lot of the movies hate is based on the characters. Ton of hate is based on the characters, which, to be fair, if I really didn't like it when we first started. When the movie first started, I was like, I really don't like this Melody character because as soon as Richter rolled up in his big old truck to the gas station where they were at and stopped at the pump and stuff like that, she talked shit about him compensating because he had a gun, and her talking about he's compensating because he's got a small dick and everything like that. I'm like, why would you say shit like that? Like, come on, man.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, and
I know.
and I hope I don't get a lot of hate for saying this, but that's the day and age we live in.
It's true, man. And I know why, because her sister had past trauma with an incident involving a shooting and this and that.
Yeah.
She's very protective and stuff like that. But based on his answer, where he's like, "Hey, you know, I carry this because there's an overpopulation of something," and he's like, "You got to keep them, in control and stuff like that, or they're going to run amok and people are going to get hurt or whatever." So, I mean, to just assume that this dude's like a gun-toting redneck and stuff like that, it's pretty shitty on her part. So automatically you're like, oh, okay, I don't know about these characters, man. I'm not feeling them. And then they're kind of douchey. They're kind of egotistical, self-centered, and this and that. And you can kind of feel that. And then you're like, as the first time I watched this movie, I'm like, man, these characters are going to be hated by people. So, but I kind of think Melody, the character of Melody, has like an arc in this movie where after what happens to the old lady, she completely changes. Completely. Because she is she feels very guilty about what happened with this lady, and she does not want to be there anymore.
Well, especially when she finds out that the old lady still owns the property.
Right.
Because they found the title to the property there.
Yeah.
Which means that was the only thing that didn't sell. They kicked an old lady out of her house and she fucking died.
She died because of So she automatically feels guilt. The Dante character feels no guilt. He doesn't care. It's like, I want him out so we can get this done, so we can have our paradise and this and that. We have investors coming in. We got to get this done now. A lot of shit hinders on us getting this ready and done. So he has he doesn't show any guilt or anything about the situation. So, and Richter, like, to his credit, which I like Richter, man. He's my favorite character. Because he has an arc too, where, you know, there's one of my favorite moments in the movie is when him and Leela are like together in his little shop where he's working, and he has guns on the table, and she, as a traumatic survivor of like a shooting, is very apprehensive, and he can kind of tell that, and he's just not, and he sympathizes with her. You think that this character is going to be, you know, a hard ass and this and that, and not sympathize with her character and what she's went through and gone through. But he does, man. He totally sympathizes with her. He kind of feels for her. And I thought that was really neat. That was to subvert your expectations of a certain character, because there's more to this character than you would originally think. And I thought that was pretty cool. And he's just an all around good dude. I mean, even when he finds out kind of what they did to the old lady and stuff like that, he takes their keys and he's like, listen, like, if I'm wrong about this or whatever, you can get these keys back, but if you guys did what I think you did, you're not getting these keys back. Like, I'm holding on to them. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Like, pretty shitty what they did. So the fact that you're sticking up for her and stuff like that is pretty, you know, admirable on your part. There was a lot of stuff he did that made him basically one of my favorite characters in the movie. I really, really grab it, which sucks because he gets fucked up, man. He gets the brutal end of, like, his death scene. Oh God, that compound fracture on his leg. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah,
it's so nasty.
Yeah, that was such a brutal death.
Oh my God, was it?
Yeah. that whole scene in that in the bedroom and everything.
Yeah,
I really like that scene because there's like Leatherface comes back and what's her Melody's in the house.
Yeah,
and he's going in and he's losing his shit. She's hiding. She's upstairs in Miss MC's room. I forget what happened, but she keeps hiding. But Richter comes in, right?
Yeah, because he finds Dante. He had his face kind of cut and slashed by Leatherface dying, and he goes up to the house to check on, I guess, to check on her to see what's going on. Which she's up in the room underneath the bed, and I like the little moment that she has where she kicks the mirror to kind of show that Leatherface is hiding, so he kind of knows when he goes into the room that he's there. It was a nice little touch there. But it doesn't really matter because he really doesn't have a shot against Leatherface. I mean, he takes him out pretty brutally. So, which, I mean, dude, the kills in this movie got to be the highlight for me, man.
Yeah,
I'll just go say it now. And you could tell there was a little bit of CGI used, but even still, it wasn't very, very like in your face noticeable. It was subtly done.
Yeah,
which worked for me, especially in when we talk about the bus massacres. Holy shit, man, that scene is gnarly as fuck.
well, I'll get to real quick. I wanted to talk because you said your favorite character.
Yeah,
I think I'm ready to talk about the bus in a minute. I just
Okay.
wanted to talk about my favorite character, which is Lila. I like, you know me and female roles. I really like when you take a female that you don't think would survive anything like this, survive it. You know, but she becomes strong by the end of the film. I like that.
Your prototypical final girl, man.
And she is. She is. And you know, honestly, like I told you how the comparison between Melody and Lila is like Sally and Franklin. And Lila is like Franklin in certain aspects.
Right.
You know, granted, she's not confined to a wheelchair.
Right. Which is funny to me. It's the thing that makes me think about it and laugh and kind of. I know you're comparing her to Franklin's character, but even in the original TCM, I'm pretty sure you've told me that you hated Franklin's character. So.
Dude, I did. It's just the fact that he was just so fucking annoying to me.
Right. Yeah. So
like, I mean, was it. Like, but I mean, and she wasn't annoying to me, but
right. I get it.
But just the fact that she was kind of helpless, you know, and it almost seemed like Melody was the stronger one.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like they swapped roles through the film, because then Lila became Sally and she was really strong and, you know, I don't know, I guess like powerful, and then Melody kind of became the weaker one and dependent, you know, in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where I stand. Like, just the change of how she was in the film was.
Well, the thing that worked for me was one little moment that worked for me with her character when she was talking. I believe she was talking to Richter, and she said, "You know, I'm the one that survived, but there's nothing special about me. There was more. My friends were more special and were able to go on to do bigger and better things, and I'm pretty much a nobody and stuff like that." I'm like, damn, that's pretty gut wrenching shit that she's saying. Like the fact that she has no confidence in herself and she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life, and then her friends had more to them and more they're just more special to her than she is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're talented and this and that than she would ever be. So that kind of like really, really broke my heart that like she doesn't see herself as anything special or anything like that. And she's like the special people are the ones that got killed, and I was the one that survived, and I'm not anything to write home about. I'm not special. I'm not going to go on to do bigger and better things with my life and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty sad. I mean, just that little moment of her saying that, I was like, man, that really spoke to her character and stuff like that. And she almost becomes like, it's almost tragic in a sense.
Yeah.
Where she felt like it's almost like that survivor guilt, that people have when they're, when they survive a traumatic event and stuff like that, where a lot of people die and stuff like that. They're able to survive, but they feel the guilt and stuff like that, and they're not able to really cope with that. And it really brings them down in life and stuff like that. They become depressed and this and that. I almost felt like she had a bit of that because she was very, very, very quiet and just basically to herself and stuff like that. She didn't really talk, to anybody and stuff. So, yeah, I felt like she had a little bit of survivor guilt. I don't know how many people. I don't think anyone survived that massacre that she was involved in. So, just to me, I felt like she had that sole survivor kind of thing going on. So, I could see why you really dig her character, man. And like I said, she's the final girl. I always love the final girl. That's what you gravitate to, man. You see yourself through the final girl's, perspective and stuff like that, because she makes it to the end. She's able to do everything. Like, oh, do that, do this, do that. She's able to navigate through that. She's almost your avatar for the horror film. So
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Yeah,
I like that. Good call on the character.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you want to talk about the bus?
Can we talk about the bus?
We can talk about the bus.
All right, cool. Talk about the bus scene. Favorite scene in the movie. I love seeing these fucking stuck up, snotty, fucking douchebags and stuff like that get massacred. I loved it. It was great. You get a massacre. You get a Chainsaw Massacre in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. What can you not love about that?
Yeah.
It's amazing, dude. The one thing I didn't like, though, and we didn't really touch on this, but you mean to tell me that chainsaw has been in that wall for all these years, and he's able to start that bitch up right away? Come on, man.
Well, no, if you think about it, I think there's a scene where you can hear him tinkering with it.
Yeah, but dude, there's no way that thing would have started up. Not from like the first go or anything like that, but the fact that it was able to start up at all, I just, you can't. There's no way.
I want to talk about, hold on, before we go any further.
Okay.
Since we're talking about the whole chainsaw being in the wall thing, because that was great to me. I love that they did that.
Yeah.
I really like the scene where Melody climbs down very slowly down the stair rail and everything.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then she's at the bottom of the stairs. She looks up and Leatherface is standing there. Just fucking throws the hammer at her and she falls through the floor.
That's another thing. He threw a fucking hammer at her and she got hit in the chest and it was like it didn't even phase her. I'm like, this is a small girl, man. Her getting smashed with the fucking hammer is going to do some damage. I mean, she's not just going to. I mean, I know her adrenaline's going and stuff like that. She's trying to survive, but still, she's got to be feeling
it. It hit her so fucking hard, she fell through a fucking floor.
I mean, dude, there's no fucking way she's able to.
What about her getting fucking, like, she goes to climb up and she grabs a pipe and breaks it and like shit water just falls all over her?
No, Leatherface was sawing through the floor and he cuts through the pipe and it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and it's all shit that she gets covered in. So she literally gets covered in shit. Yeah, man, she had a brutal in this one. Yeah. I mean, no doubt about that.
Oh man, I actually dug it when he was playing cat and mouse with her underneath the floorboards with that fucking saw. That was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That was pretty dope. He was chasing her all around.
I'm like, how the fuck do these characters? Some of them are taking these shots and stuff like that, and they just keep moving like it doesn't phase them. I'm like, what are these people? Do they feel pain? Do they feel anything? I mean, fuck, it's amazing, dude. There's a couple scenes at the end where it's like, how is she able to just get up and move around after that happened? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, fuck, Sally gets gored and she's still alive. Like, what the fuck is happening? Do we get into another dimension where these are superhumans? I mean, what's happening?
Leatherface, Avenger style.
I'm telling you, man, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, the bus. That was cool.
Oh, yeah. Which,
you know what? You know, one thing I didn't like about it was the fact that all these kids just like cell phones. It's like,
well,
I'd be like, fuck you, I'm finding a window.
Dude, people are so obsessed with their phones and capturing everything and stuff like that. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
I could see it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People are obsessed with that shit, especially that generation. That they're obsessed with phones, and and capturing everything on live and showing off everything and stuff like that. That's all their world's based on and stuff. So the fact, I mean, you get in the beginning of the situation where Leatherface is revving up the chainsaw and stuff like that. People are like, "Oh, this is a big joke. This is some dude putting us on, putting us on." And then, but he starts to fucking kill people and stuff like that. You can put your phone down and you try to get the fuck out of Dodge. I mean, come on. Like, you're seeing people get limbs hacked off and gored and this and that, and they're just still like, I don't know, man. It's funny because they're literally trapped and they can't do anything in that bus. They can't get out, so they're just getting.
I'm really surprised like they didn't like fight back and try and tackle him or something.
You would think, but that's
because I mean some of us will die, but tackle his big fat ass. He'll go to the ground.
Let me ask you something. What did you think of the portrayal of Leatherface in this movie?
I liked it. I mean, I dug it. There's a couple shots where, again, I mean, it's written. It wasn't the actor, it was the way he was written, probably. But there was a couple shots that I didn't care for, like where he just, because you think of Leatherface, you think of like he's gonna kill anyone in his path, and in this case, there was a couple scenes where I noticed he just kind of walked past people like they were nothing, like they were a nobody. But to that extent, they didn't do him any harm. These people on the bus did do him harm, because had they not been there to buy that town, they wouldn't be in the predicament they were in, where essentially his mom died. So I think the portrayal of Leatherface in this film is more psychological than what we've seen in the past.
Right. Well,
but he's also very smart, and he thinks things out clearly too.
Which is
different, because Leatherface is more so spontaneous and just kind of goes with the flow. Versus in this film, I've almost seen him, because there's a couple times where he's trapped them on purpose in a way that you wouldn't normally see,
Yeah.
Because there's one scene where he's like hiding out in like an alleyway, and then he comes out of nowhere in an alleyway, or like, for instance, in the theater, where he leaves his chainsaw running behind a curtain, and then he comes out and attacks from behind.
Yeah, he's more like
planned out. That's not Leatherface, in my opinion.
Premeditated.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's interesting. Like I said, they're trying to, I don't know, man. They're trying to take these icons and change everything. Well, not everything about them, but a lot of things about them that we come to know and love about their characters. I mean, the original Halloween, Michael Myers was never meant to be this fucking. He was supposed to be a dude that is pure evil, and he's just killing people just for no motive, and that's scary. But then he became like a super villain, a Jason, where he's just taking shots left and right, punished and this and that, but still going. He's still driving and this and that. And now they're doing that with Leatherface too. It's like that you see they're all trying to become like this Jason figure, where he's like an unstoppable beast. And that's what they're basically going for, especially with this Michael and this Leatherface. They're older. There's no, there's no feasible way that they're able to keep going after suffering this damage, and it's just hard to believe, but that's the direction we're going in. It's almost like you have to almost turn your brain off and just enjoy the carnage to enjoy these movies. Because that's the big selling point with these, is that they're true slasher films. You're getting kills, you're getting the gore, you're getting everything you want in a slasher film. So, but to the story and the plot and everything like that, you just got to turn your brain off and not think about it, because if you really do think about it, not like a lot of shit doesn't make any sense, man. Doesn't make any sense at all. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, where we're at.
Yeah.
But I found myself in this movie, wondering, whatever happened to Drayton Sawyer? Whatever happened to him? we all know Nubbins got run over by the truck in the original TCM, so we know why Nubbins isn't in the picture. But whatever happened to Drayton? You just don't know. I love the story. To me, I don't just love the fact that we have Leatherface. I love the entire Sawyer family from the original TCM. Love the Drayton character. I love the Nubbins character. I think the three of them together, and even with Grandpa, even though Grandpa's just there, the fact that they're able to psychologically wear people down by just tormenting Sally, poor Sally, man. They psychologically just break her down at the end of TCM, which is just one of the greatest scenes in horror. I mean, just them basically torturing her psychologically, just getting under her skin with everything going on around her. That whole dinner scene, the table. Oh man, one of my favorite scenes ever. I love it. But I love those characters, man. And I just found myself wondering, like, what happened to Drayton? What happened to him? You know?
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
I can't think. I just don't like. I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared.
There's a lot of confusion with this film.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's going to be a sequel?
If this film does good, which it has been doing really good from what I hear. I mean, you know how Netflix is; they don't really give out the numbers for how well things are doing and how many. But from what I've heard, this is doing well on Netflix. So
yeah.
That being said, I'm sure it's going to get retcon for a sequel or prequel. Something's going to come out of it.
Yeah,
and,
maybe they'll explain how he ended up in an orphanage.
That would be cool. I mean, because we're really trying to figure that out. Why he ended up in an orphanage and what happened to his brother and
Where did the Sawyer family go?
Where did the Sawyer family go? Yeah, what transpired there? I mean, like I said, we know what happened to Nubbins. What happened to Drayton? What happened to Grandpa? What happened to these guys?
Yeah.
No, it's never been answered. But at the end of the day, that's why I don't try to think about. Sometimes I think about it, but sometimes I think if we just had those movies, the original Halloween, the original TCM, we had those just by themselves. Oh my God, dude, they're just so effective in the way they ended, the way those movies transpired, what we got out of them and stuff like that. If we never got sequels to them and stuff like that, it would just be excellent.
Yeah,
they are, of course, but it would serve. Like, I'm not going to say, because I love, like I said, I love a lot of the sequels in both franchises. I do, but just think of them as a standalone, both of them. I mean, dude, it's crazy to think about.
And that's what I wonder if that's what they were trying to go for with this, was kind of a standalone type, because it almost feels that way, Maybe. It really does.
Yeah.
If you went into this film not ever watching any of the previous films in the franchise, I think you would be fine. Other than because they cover the back history of Sally, but the thing is the whole subplot of Sally and everything really doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't work for this film.
It doesn't go anywhere. I mean, she
shows up and it's like, oh yay, Sally's here to save the day. Oh wait, no, she just got fucking killed.
Yeah, she just got gored with the chainsaw. Which, I mean, a lot of people were which I like. They didn't really throw a lot of that whole, oh man, Sally's doing this as revenge for her friends and stuff like that, and her brother.
Well, she actually does holler out and say, "This is for Franklin."
Right, but they're not so heavy-handed with it, where they keep throwing it in your face in this movie a lot. There's this one little moment where she looks at the picture before she takes off of her whole, the whole group together that she has in her truck, and that's all it does, and that's just enough. Just what you needed to do was just that, to say, hey, this is going back to the original. This is going back to those characters. We're paying respect to those characters and everything like that. That's all you needed to do, and it did that fine. Just by doing just having that little moment, did it fine, perfectly. No complaints there.
Yeah. So, what did you think about the ending?
Oh my god, it's so goofy. It really is, man. I know, I see what they were doing there, but it's just so goofy the way it happened. It just looks so off-putting and so weird when he just when he decapitated her and stuff like that. It just like looked hokey.
Yeah.
It did not like, and then she's just, I don't know if it was kind of comedic just because the car was driving her and she's just out of the window like screaming like no, and the car's just driving her around. I don't know, something about that just came off comedic to me. The whole situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to, but it came off that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. What you think?
I don't know. Like they couldn't have just let the sisters go. And that'd be the end of it. But I mean, I guess you got to leave it open for a sequel. You know, that's the key, because that's the day and age we live in. So
Well, that in the day and age we live in, you have to have that one final jump scare. I mean, it's got to be in there. You got to make the audience jump at the end. I mean,
one thing that they did do that I really loved was at the end, Leatherface started swinging his chainsaw around like the original movie. I was like, that's cool. Thank you.
I know this is weird, but I'd really like the ending credits music and the way the end credits were done. That was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was neat. I dug the hell out of it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when they're in the bus and stuff like that, in the beginning of the movie, her sister buys her this corkscrew for the wine. It's got a little chainsaw on it.
Yeah.
And that comes into play when they fight back against Leatherface in the bus when they're trying to get away. She stabs him with it. I thought that was pretty funny. That was pretty cool. So that came full circle. That came around full circle and came into play. So I love when that happens in movies. So when the attention to detail is there and you don't forget it and you harken back to it, I dig that. But yeah, that was pretty cool too. But I mean, to me, this Leatherface is pretty brutal. He's kind of vicious and he takes no shit. The portrayal is cool. I like it. I'm with you on some of the things that he did that was kind of premeditated and stuff like that. That seemed kind of off character a little bit.
Because like I said, the Leatherface to me kind of acts on impulse.
Yeah,
no premeditation.
Yeah, impulse and instinct. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, you know,
but I think that's the only issue I have with him. I love the fact that he's a 70-year-old guy who can sling this fucking chainsaw around like it's nobody's business. Who can fucking throw a hammer and knock a woman straight through the fucking floor with it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I dug it, but like, there's some things I dug, some things I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, this movie's, there's so many different pros and cons to it. I mean, the things that it does right that I really like, and then there's some things that just scratch my head and I'm like, why would you do that? Don't do that. What are you doing? Like, it's so frustrating. It really is. The second time I watched, because I watched it twice for this review. I watched it once when it came out, and then me and you talked about doing it again. So I'm like, all right, I got to watch it again just to kind of do my notes and kind of get my thoughts across and everything like that. Which is funny because, you know, us talking about it, I really haven't looked at my notes at all for this review. It's just going off of what me and you were just having the same kind of thought process and a lot of this stuff. I mean, I haven't really had to harken back and look back on them, but I really did cover a lot of the stuff that I wrote down. I'm looking at my notes now. So it's just, man, the things that they did wrong, it's just really frustrating to me. So you could see where if they tweaked the story a little bit and did this and did that, it would be fine. There would be no issues with it, but they just, some of the little details they just forgot to really pay attention to. It just irks me a little bit, you know, especially considering the fact I think the director is a big fan and really wanted to do proper by the franchise and by the original TCM. So it's just really just, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's just
I almost wonder if the director's hands were kind of tied in some of the situations.
It could have been, which is unfortunate. It happens, but
because I look at this and I see probably big production companies probably had their hands on this project, and I think, you know, in the end, I think some stuff got backed out or something happened, and you know, Netflix was like, "Hey, I'll scoop it up."
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's the case, or if Netflix was like, "We're going to do this."
I would love to know the story behind that and why it went straight to Netflix and stuff like that, because I really didn't.
Thing that
do my-
scares me is I've got all the movies. I've got
Yeah.
all the hard copies.
Thank you for bringing that up, dude. I was seeing if we could
That
bring that.
this is going to scare me if this doesn't get a hard copy release,
Yeah.
and it's only going to be on Netflix.
Yep, you know how Netflix is. That kind of worries me too.
Yeah.
I'm a completionist with my collection. I like to have my franchises complete. I don't like holes in my franchises. I don't like that. So it's gonna fucking drive me crazy if they don't release it.
Especially if it gets a fucking sequel. That's really going to aggravate me.
Right, totally. Which they've released their series, like, you know, what is it? Oh God, what's that show? Stranger Things, you know, that got released physically and stuff like that, but they really don't do their movies. They don't do releases for their movies too much. Yeah, I was going to bring that up, and I'm glad you did, man. That really does worry me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that they realize with horror fans, like, horror fans are physical media people, and they want this stuff in their collection. So I hope they realize that, and they don't do us wrong by not releasing. Because if they don't, man, I'm just going to have to get like a nice bootleg copy or something to put in my shelf, because I have to complete my franchise, man.
Yeah.
Can't like that. It just doesn't work.
Unless
For most people,
you know, unless like later on, like, you know, somebody buys the rights to it and produces it.
that could take a while, though, man.
That could take a long fucking while.
Yeah, because you know how these franchises get tied up in the court. I mean, look what's happening to Friday the 13th right now. I mean, it's frustrating. We haven't had a new Friday the 13th in a long time because it's stuck in the court system, and there's a fucking back and forth, which I think it's done. It's over with now. So hopefully we'll get a new Friday soon. Now that this is
Oh
kind of
yeah. I believe Netflix is picking that one up too. Joking. I'm joking.
Right.
I don't know.
It's ironic. They had the remake on there, so it's funny. But yeah, we have a new Halloweens and a new TCM and stuff like that, but no Fridays. So yeah.
You know what? You know what else is nothing you don't hear about anymore is like Hellraiser and even Nightmare on Elm.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would watch that if it doesn't have Robert Englund in it, because you can't have Freddy Krueger.
That's the thing. I don't think I think that's why. I mean, that's not tied up in any legal battles or anything like that. It just, the studios and stuff are just too afraid to continue on after what happened with that remake without Robert Englund. It's just too much of a gamble.
They could redeem it and make a new movie and bring Robert Englund back, because I'm sure Robert Englund would be more than willing to do it.
No, he said he's done with the character, man. He did that one thing on that show. Yeah, he did that one thing on that show, and he said after that, I was like, I'm not playing Freddy anymore. I'm done. So yeah, he's done, man.
Damn.
He's not coming back. Just like Ash too. Bruce Campbell's like, I'm done with the character of Ash. I'm not coming back to do him anymore. So it's like, oh, that's heartbreaking. But
yeah, especially because there was an announcement a couple years back, wasn't there, on that? And they were going to come out with a new Evil Dead movie. Even Sam Raimi was even going to work on it.
Well, they are. It's coming out, but Ash is, or Bruce Campbell and Ash, like, there's nothing to do with it. So like, yeah.
Well, now that's going to play out.
It's called Evil Dead Rise, I think it's called. It's coming out, but like I said, Bruce Campbell's got nothing to do with it. I think Sam Raimi's got something to do with it, though. I think he's producing it or something. So, but these characters, man, they're done with them. So, unfortunately, heartbreaking. But maybe
I was just glad that
they're going, and they're like, I don't want no part of this shit.
Yeah, I was glad with the Leatherface character in this film, though. They kind of got him, I guess you would say, proportioned a little correctly. Like, you know, you think of Leatherface, you go back to like Gunnar Hansen with the wiry hair and the big build. He really wasn't a muscular guy. He was just kind of an overgrown guy. Yeah. And I think that was what was so scary about him. And going into this movie, I was glad to see that Leatherface is this big beast of a guy.
Well, the guy he kind of has the same kind of build as Gunnar Hansen too, so they really did cast that. They really did cast that well.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I was quite pleased with that.
Like they casted.
Yeah, I will say
perfect.
he portrayed Leatherface quite amazingly. It's just like I said, I think some of the writing and on Leatherface's behalf was kind of, I didn't care for it too much.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Well, I forgot to bring this up too. The fact that as much as I love this set piece, this gore set piece, when he held out the Miss MC in the field and stuff like that, and did like that shrine to her essentially. It's another thing that Leatherface. I don't think Leatherface would do because Nubbins was the one that did the corpse kind of displaying and stuff like that in the original TCM. That was Nubbins that was doing that. So the fact that maybe Leatherface did it tribute his brother too in a way, I don't know, but this is not something I would see him doing.
yeah,
That was more Nubbins' thing. Like he was, because even Drayton was getting on to him about that in the original. He's like, "Well, how'd you go out there and mess with them corpses in the graveyard and stuff like that?" So that was kind of
which
that was kind of a curious little.
that was
thing
an Ed Gain thing. You remember
Yeah.
he used to make statues in the local cemetery of corpses.
Yes, I do. But in the
So
original, they even made it a point to say that Nubbins was the one doing that. So I don't know how much the face was involved in that. I don't know.
mm,
Curious, but like I said, maybe he did that to honor his brother or something like that. I don't know. As much as he was honoring Miss MC as well, like because he respected her and I'm sure he genuinely loved her and cared for her. So
mhm.
obviously did based on his reaction to what happened to her. So
Yeah.
But Sally's character, to me that's unforgivable, man. You can't do that to a character like that. I mean, so shitty.
Really was.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy at all with that. I would have been more happier had they just honestly left her character completely out of the storyline.
I mean, completely. Yeah. I mean, I would have been cool with that too, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if she's not going to come out and do something really, really cool and this and that, then why even involve her character in the first place? It's just it's so frustrating, man. One of those.
Is a failed opportunity, really.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much all I got.
Same here, man. I think we covered just about everything we needed to.
So something I did write down in my notes that we didn't talk about. Well, I mean, we did and we didn't. I really loved the set. I loved everything about the set. The set of this small town. I dug the shit out of it. I loved it. I mean, all the way down to the gas station. I would have, I wish they would have used the original gas station though. That would have been cool for a shot.
Well, they didn't shoot this film in Texas either. That was another thing. They shot it in a different country, I believe. So
Yeah.
that kind of like, oh man, I wish they would have shot in Texas. That would have just felt right, you know?
Yeah.
But I get it. It's cheaper to shoot in different countries. I get it. I understand, but still at the same time, it's like, well, it had me thinking too. I was like, well, do they have sunflower fields in Texas? I had to look that up.
Do they? Because I don't
They
think they
do.
do.
They do,
Really?
yeah. They totally do. And I was wondering about that. I was like, that'd be a huge, huge thing if like sunflowers don't grow in Texas like that. That'd be kind of weird that they actually included that and they were making a point to show it. But I'm glad they did their research on that because yes, they do. There are indeed fields of sunflowers in Texas. Apparently, the heat in Texas is perfect for growing sunflowers and stuff like that. So
Wow.
it's ideal. It's ideal the climate. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
So
yeah,
that
I was wondering that, like, because you think of Texas, you think of just big open plains with like, wheat and grass and stuff like that. You don't think of sunflowers being grown there.
Yeah, sunflowers is not the first thing you think of.
No.
They made such a big point, and even it's the image that you see thinking about this movie is him popping up out of the sunflower field.
Yeah.
Which you say that and you laugh about it, but I actually like it. I think it looks cool. Looks fine.
Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah. But you had to throw that out there too. I genuinely was like, I gotta look to see that if they even grow out there in Texas like that. So But that's all I got, man.
Right on. Yeah. Like I said, I dug the whole set though.
Yeah.
The like I said, the small town just resonated with me. I dug the shit out of that.
I don't know how you feel, but I even mentioned it in the beginning, but I love Southern horror, man. That's my
Oh, yeah.
jam. I dig it. I love the locations. I love the accents. I love all that shit, man. I eat it up in my horror films. There's a lot of good horror films that have the small Southern town setting and stuff like that, which I
Mhm.
just genuinely love. Something about it speaks home to me, man. So when I see that, I automatically love the setting when they do that. Automatically. That's one of the that's it already if a movie's set in a small southern town and it's a horror film, you already getting like kudos from me.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Well, think are you? Oh, we got to get into ratings. We haven't done ratings.
Well, yeah, we do, man. We definitely do. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'm curious. Yeah. What's your thoughts?
Man. So this is a movie that you basically, I hate to say it, but you have to turn your brain off to watch it. I mean, because if you really think about it, there's a lot of things that are frustrate the hell out of you as well, involving the story, and the characters and everything like that. It's just the way they did them. Really, really frustrating. There's questionable things like how the fuck is this chainsaw just gonna up and start running after it came out of the wall for being walled up for all these years? How is Leatherface pushing into his late 70s and he's able to do this shit and take all this residual damage without being affected in any way? Even the characters are taking shots and hits and stuff like that. The chick getting hit with the damn hammer and falling through the ground, and it's like it didn't even phase her. She just got up and started moving around, and I'm like, you'd be like bleeding eternally from that happening. I mean, so just a lot of that shit didn't make any sense to me. It was frustrating as hell. Some of the character decisions, why they would do what they did. Some of it worked for me, like the Richter character, the Leela character. Those were fine. I didn't mind them. I liked that kind of Melody had kind of an arc where she felt kind of bad because it could have been like she could have been a just complete stuck up cold bitch and not cared about anything with the old lady. But she did. She ended up really caring about her and felt terrible about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect that they did that. Like I said, the best thing about this movie, hands down, are the kills. They're fantastic. They're gory. They're brutal. They're amazing. Even with a little bit of CGI, we harp a lot on the CGI. We don't like it, but I think in this movie, it's tastefully done. It's not too noticeable. So that worked out pretty well. Like I said, Leatherface was the guy that played him was great. Same build, same look, everything. There's some good shots in this movie. We talk a little bit about the setting too. But all in all, man, there's just a lot of negatives too that outweigh it. So with me, I had to come in at a 2.5 on this one. 2.5 out of 5 for me.
Okay. Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I really going into this film, I had high hopes. And I found myself at times confused. And I think it just comes down to the writing of this film, really. I think there's a lot of holes in this writing that didn't quite make sense to me. Especially trying to make this like a blatant sequel off the original. Again, I thought there was a lot of missed opportunities with Leatherface, and again, coming down to the writing, not so much the acting. The acting in this film, solid.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I didn't have an issue with any of the acting in this film. I resonated really well with the two main characters. I got what they were trying to go for as far as from the original film, kind of Sally and Franklin character, and that's honestly what got me through this film with those two characters. A lot of the other characters were kind of annoying to me a little bit, but not to the point where I ultimately hated this film. There was again, like you said, brutality of this film, I did like.
It didn't hold me.
It's in your face. It's gory as shit. It's what you would expect coming from Leatherface. You would expect him to hack the fuck out of people with a big chainsaw, and he delivers. Yeah. So originally, I actually did have this at a 4, and then I watched it again, and I thought more about this movie, and I was like, you know what? Like you said, negativity, in my opinion, kind of outweighs the positivity of this film. So I see the pros and cons of this film, but I see more cons than pros. So with that, I gave it a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually did change it after the second viewing because I was like, well, they could have really done better.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like I had to give it I had to get a lower rating because for me, like you said, the more of the cons outweighed the pros.
Hmm.
Like I said, what they did to the Sally character, I didn't like that either. But you actually made the correlation that you made. I really really love where these two sisters really felt like, Sally and Franklin, like the correlation that you made there, where they seem to be very very similar in a lot of ways and stuff like that, was really cool. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that till you said it, and then after you said it, I'm like, huh, you know what? He's right on the money on that. I can totally see that. So that was really cool. That actually helped a little bit too. Um, I didn't say the end. Well, we kind of talked about the ending, but the ending's kind of comical and funny, and I don't think that's the intention, but
Yeah.
it came off that way too. So that was another negative for me. It's like I'm supposed to feel for this moment, stuff like that, but I ended up laughing because of the way it was handled. So that kind of went into my rating too, on the negatives and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
like I said, all in all, it's a movie. If you just go in wanting to see some cool kills, some really really awesome like gore and stuff like that, then you're gonna love this, man. You're gonna dig the hell out of it. But if you're looking for a story and this and that, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. Well, I think most people will. Some people might actually dig it and kind of fill
Hmm.
in holes, whatever the way they can supplement it and make it make sense to them. I don't know. People can
Yeah.
do that, but for me and you, man, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah. And to your point, exactly. I got contacted by somebody who follows our podcast, and he was talking about how he was watching this film, and he said he dug it, he loved it, it was a great film, and it just goes to show, like, I don't think that, and I could be wrong in this because I don't really know, but I think if people had more of an appreciation for the older film, like the original, and then go into this, they would probably have the same outcome as us, or the same outlook, shall I say, as us, um, versus like somebody just going into this film and not really maybe ever even seeing the original, or the original, even the sequel, for that
not really.
matter.
Mhm.
Um, again, this resonates with more of a newer age, um, fan base, so it's more, um, kind of in your face, brutal, torture, gore porn, if you will, and so
Heavy.
it did something that the original didn't do, like you said, you pointed out earlier. So yeah, I can see it both ways. I can see how new age people would watch this and be totally turned on by it, like it's like this is the new age Texas for them,
Well,
versus not for us.
the thing I realized with this franchise is they can never get the timeline right. Like even in Texas Chainsaw 3D, they fucked that timeline up too. Like nothing made sense as far as like where these characters were at. Like the main character should have been a lot older than she was, based on
Hmm.
how the movie was set up and everything like that. So they just can't get the timelines right on these movies. I don't know why. That seems to be a problem.
Was that the one with Renee Zellweger?
No, no, no. That was the one with Alexandra Daddario, who has to be one of the sexiest women on the planet. That woman is gorgeous, but even she couldn't save that movie. That movie was dreadful, man.
Yeah.
You want to talk about problems with the story and the plot? That movie had tons of them. So, but they can't, like, I don't understand. They cannot get the timeline right on these
Yeah.
movies. on sequels. They're just dropping the ball on them, and everything's sort of the remake, and then the prequel to the remake. Those movies are in a little box of their own, but the continuations from the original TCM and stuff like that, they just fuck up the storyline.
They really
fuck
do.
up the timeline, really.
And that's why even the sequel doesn't resonate with me. I actually I tend to not, I lean towards not watching that one. I have it and I've watched it on several occasions, but it's just not one that I want to sit down and pop on.
You mean TCM2?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one with Caroline Williams.
Yeah.
All that
Stretch.
jazz, Bill Moseley.
Chop Top. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, those characters are great, but I feel like that film as a standalone is good.
Yeah.
By itself. Now the one with Renee Zellweger and who's it, Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
I fucking hate that one.
Next Generation.
That's
why in the TCM franchise, there's a lot of misses, man. But man, it's one of those franchises, dude, that you just you really scratch your head with some of the decisions that are made in some of these films. You really like. Are these people like people? Of course, they're probably not. They're studios just trying to make a quick buck, but really just pay attention to the story and everything like that and try to adapt it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all you have to do. Is just, you don't have to really overthink it, or just get some things right that just make sense. I mean, it's easier said than done. Easier me saying, oh, it's easy to. I'm sure it's a little tougher for studios and stuff to get it right because they have to appeal to an audience that mainly. Or I'm not gonna say mainly, because us horror fans are very passionate about these franchises and stuff like that. But for the the casual horror fans, or the people that just pop in every once in a while to watch a horror film, they don't care about that shit. They just care about flashy stuff going on screen. That's all they care about. So they have to appeal, they have to find the happy medium. And I know it's tough, but at the end of the day, I really think you should more appeal to the massive fan, like the hardcore horror fans, because those are the people that are really gonna care about this movie later on down the line. That just goes to show you all the studios care about is that box office. That's all they care about.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of praise Netflix for taking this on, but at the same time I want that hard copy.
I do too, man. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. It's be in my collection when it's released. If it ever is released, if it's not released, I'm gonna have to go the bootleg route.
Didn't they? I mean, they do release some of their titles, like Zombievers came out, right?
They don't really, man. I mean, Zombievers did come out. There's a movie on there called The Ritual, which I absolutely love. I wish it would be released, so I want it in my collection, but it's just they're like original Netflix films and stuff like that. That's what they don't really release, like just movies in general that they stream and that they get a hold of. They'll release some of them, like, and even the original stuff like Stranger Things and stuff like that's been released because the massive like demand from fans and stuff like that. The movie or that series was really popular, so
yeah.
I'm just hoping this being a TCM film, its popularity will garner it being released on physical media. I just hope. You can only hope, man.
You can only hope.
Yep.
All right. Well, you ready to land it?
Yeah, man. I think so. I think we discussed this film quite a bit. Enough for this discussion. So, yep.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate you watching another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner. We hope we didn't ruin anything for you and you took our advice and went over to Netflix and watched it. Just give it a chance. Go into this film with an open mind and see, what your thoughts are. Also, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe this, and leave a comment down below on what you thought about this film as well. And head over to our Facebook group as well and start a discussion there. We'd like to get some interaction and involvement from you guys and see what you guys think about this film and the whole franchise and what your thoughts are. Are your views the same as ours? Is the pros and cons the same? Just want to hear from you guys and see what you guys think. But Tony, you got anything?
No, man, I'm good with that. Like I said, we love to discuss the movies with you guys on the group and stuff like that. If you do, feel free, leave a comment, discuss what you or your thoughts on the film and what you were thinking and stuff like that. We can open up a discussion and stuff like that, and it'd just be really cool, man. We just love talking with the listeners and stuff like that, and just talking film. That's what we do. So
Yep.
the more that we get to do, the happier we are.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it, guys, and with that,
As always.
Later.
Later.